Okay, so first of all we're going to talk about quarantine here. So there's a couple of ways of doing this. Now you can either do quarantine with medication or you can do quarantine without medication. Now in a home environment, often quarantine tanks are quite small and meds are very difficult to dose accurately in small water volumes. So for the home hobbyist, I'd recommend a simple system of quarantine without medication. So what does that involve? It's fairly straightforward. All you need to do is set up a small tank, and when you buy new fish you put it into that tank separate from the main tank. It's very important you use separate equipment and you don't transport water between them or anything wet. When you wash your hands between the two systems, there's no cross-infection from quarantine to the main tank. You then keep the fish in that system for 28 days. And if at the end of the 28 days it all looks good, you can pop it into the main system and you're 95% sure you're going to be okay. If there is an infection on the fish, chances are it will show up within the 28 days. However, and this is the important bit, if you add anything new to that quarantine tank within that 28 days, you have to restart the counter straight from scratch again. Because the thing that's just come in new could pass something to something that's been there a while. So although one fish might have been there for 28 days, if something came in the day before and then infected it, you're going to have a problem. Just hold it there for the 28 days. If you do get an infection, then worst case scenario you've only got one fish or two fish at risk of disease, and it's much easier to medicate in a small tank with a specific treatment for a specific disease. The second way of doing that is doing it with medication. Now with this one, what you do is you get the fish, you put it into the small tank and you treat it with a medication. The one I'd recommend would be Cubrazin from Waterlife, which is a mixture of copper and malachite green. It's more effective than copper on its own because the malachite green will tackle diseases which the copper won't touch. So things like fungal and bacterial infections, copper won't do anything against those, but the malachite green will. The malachite green also tends to make the copper more stable and means the copper is more effective at a lower dose as well, so it's less risky on certain fishes. However, having said that, it's quite hard to use the medication at home. Ideally you would make sure that you dose every single day as close to midnight as possible. By dosing late at night, the fish's metabolism slows down, so they absorb less of the toxic medications themselves, and the parasites are at their most vulnerable to medication because that is often the time when they exit the fish into the water where they're more vulnerable. So dose the medication exactly the same time every single day, and the closer to midnight the better. Also make sure you're operating at a normal salinity range and a temperature around 28°C. Now if you do that absolutely flawlessly, 5 days will be enough to sort out most problems. Within 5 days that should be done enough to wipe out Bruchinella. It will also wipe out velvet and white spot. And if you do have flukes in the system, within the 5-day period you'll at least be able to detect them, and they can extend the quarantine period if you need to. However, if you are slightly erratic on your dosing or you want to be extra sure, then you can either use a dosing for 10 days method, or you can dose for 5 days, wait for a week, see how they look, and then do another 5 days if you feel that it's necessary. The problem with dosing for a 10-day method is it's great on things like tangs, which can take heavy doses of medication very easily, but on fish which are much more sensitive to medication, such as angelfish or anything that's really tiny, under an inch long, then there's a good chance that you could do some harm or even kill the fish with the medication. Because this is quite tricky to do in small water volumes, this is where we prefer in a home environment to do the 28 days wait and see system. Bear in mind that many fish diseases can also come in attached to corals, although they can't infect the coral as such, that anything wet that comes into the home aquarium can carry diseases with it. Things like white spot and velvet don't transport easily on corals, but Bruchinella does. And so it's very easy to get a coral frag, put it into your tank and infect that with Bruchinella. To avoid that problem, a lot of hobbyists will have a second little quarantine tank, often like a little nano tank on the desk or somewhere else around the house, kid's bedroom or whatever. And then you put the corals into that, wait for 28 days, and most of the parasites will die off within that time period. Again, you can do corals and inverts in that system, but you do need to reset the count of 28 days if you add anything new during that time. So that's how you do it. It's nice and simple. Obviously quarantine is a lot more complicated than that. I've been quarantining fish every week for 6 years now. There's probably 300 quarantine cycles I've done, and there's a lot of little hints and tips you pick up along the way for specific fish and specific types of infection as well. We can't cover all that in such a short video, So if you do run into any further problems, feel free to message store or pop in, and make sure you check out our other videos on specific fish diseases.